Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's Fireside Hang. If I haven't met you yet, my name is Samantha, and I am a senior DevRel engineer here at Midnight. And I am super excited to be hosting my first Fireside Hang here for Midnight. And I'm so glad that you all are able to join us today. So today we have a few things lined up for you all. I'm going to be giving you all a walkthrough of selective disclosure and kind of a short intro to smart contracts. I'm very new to the Web3 scene, and I've been learning a lot about the space as well as Midnight. So this will be a nice overview for me and hopefully for you all as well. But first, on the stage with me today, we have fellow DevRel engineer, Stev. Welcome, Stev. He's going to be sharing some updates about Rare Evo next week and do a re-review of our community board as well as kind of show some updates on it. So with that, Stev, let's jump right into it.
Cool. So yeah, hello everybody, and thank you for the introduction, Samantha. So yeah, we're coming in full force at Rare Evo next week. There's going to be a midnight booth. There's going to be an agenda. There's going to be some of the partnership announcements that you've seen through the midnight channels. Some of them are going to be also giving demos, and I'm also going to be putting out if there's any SPOs coming as well. I would love to get y'all onboarded onto Midnight and producing blocks, hopefully before you leave Vegas. That'd be really nice. So hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I'm going to be posting something today on my channels for you to sign up, and we can meet in person just as a kind of like a Rare Evo group. And I'm happy to support you guys on site and asynchronously in Vegas next week. But yeah, so if anyone is coming to Rare Evo, let us know. We'd love to make an effort to meet up with you and connect. And if there's anything you'd like to talk about or demo, just let us know. We can be prepared to discuss that in person. But other than that, we can talk a little bit about the community board. So the community board. So the community board is the thing. If any of you were on this call last week, we're discussing this community board that we're building out. So it's a new initiative, and it's for our community hub repository at the Midnight Network organization on GitHub. So whether you're a developer, a community member with ideas, just curious about our Midnight projects, this board is basically designed to make collaboration transparent, inclusive, and efficient. And today I'll walk you through what the community board is, at least the current status of it, and why it matters, and how our workflow turns your ideas and feedback into actionable tasks for our community and even our team. So, and let me share my screen. If I can pull up my screen here, you should see this Community Hub repository. So this is the Community Hub repository, and I will show the boards in a minute, but it's currently private, but it will be public. But anyways, I want to explain, why did we create the community board in the first place? So at its core, it's all about empowering our communities to shape the future of this community hub, and also shape content and other things that would be valuable for the community. So this repository is where we collect ideas, bug reports, and proposals for content, and even decentralized application proposals. And the community board will be hosted publicly, connected to this repository, which gives everyone visibility into what's being proposed and discussed. So it's like a transparent space where we can submit ideas freely, track progress openly, and also join the process. There's a lot of people that make requests like, oh, I'd love to see a demo on this or something very specific. And sometimes we'll plan that content, or maybe someone in the community is planning that content. But now we can create issues for these topics and collaborate in person, collaborate on those. For example, if I'm doing a Midnight Block Producer workshop, Some people are like, oh, can you provide this service for the workshop? You can, if you have an issue for this workshop, which we will in the community hub, you can contribute to the scope of work. And ideally, if it's the community that's providing their input, hopefully it's increasing the value of that issue to the community when it does get executed. But yeah, this setup ensures every voice is heard, every idea is considered fairly, and legitimate tasks are clearly prioritized for contributors to jump in. So it's all about making collaboration not just possible but exciting and hopefully a little bit more organized. So let's dive into how the community board works. So here we have Community Hub here, which is this private repository. There'll be a better README when this is public, but people will be able to create issues, and these issues have pretty standard ones. Obviously, other open source repos are going to have issues, but we wanted a hub repository to collect anything that anyone wants to propose. Like if you, like maybe there's a bug that you don't know where it might be, you can obviously create a bug report here. But you can also create, content proposals, DAB proposals, feature requests and suggestions. And there'll probably be more over time. But let's say if you're creating a content proposal, you'll be able to do that, and you'll have a content proposal. There'll be a template. So for example, let's just say lorem ipsum, just as some default thing. So I want to create a content proposal. It's called lorem ipsum. This is some type of content I'm proposing. It could be a talk, blog, demo, tutorial. Maybe you're and I also have like I18 and here that's short for internationalization. So maybe you're like, hey, I would love to have a this type of content, but also for my specific demographic and language. That's all fair issues here. So you would create that content, and then these issues will automatically go to the community board. So I'm just going to put it here for now, but this will be managed via a GitHub action. So this will go to the community board, and in the community board, which will be public, everyone will be able to see all these issues populating here. And they will also have their associated labels. So we can filter labels, and it's public, so everyone can see this stuff going on in here. And then when we triage these, we can do it publicly. So as we'll have public meetings, we can even make it part of our DevRel Fireside Hangs. Go through like 10, 15 minutes about these issues, like which we actually did today. And triage them. So things go into no status. So if an issue is very well populated, it could go into triage, like, oh yeah, let's discuss this. It's a well populated issue. Or let's say it's not a populated issue or it's redundant, then maybe it needs more discussion. And then let's say it's a redundant issue, you could put it into rejected or put it into triage. All right, so this issue is discussed in triage. It's a serious issue, blah, blah, blah. And then you can decide to triage this. So let's say the community thinks that this is, if there's consensus that this issue is definitely good, like, oh, let's say this type of tutorial is very legitimate and I'd love to see it prioritized, we can triage it. Now, once you triage it, there will be an action that will automatically put this into the grab and go board. Now, once it's in the grab and go board, this will also be a public board that everyone can see. It would go into node status. So the grab and go board is kind of like a working board. Like, hey, these are all issues that have gone through some type of curation and they're ready to be considered to work on. Some will be good first issues. We'll definitely be picking up issues, but also maybe there's contributors out there that want to contribute to an issue and also be celebrated for their attribution to the Midnight Project. So let's say it goes in no status. In the triage, we can also assign these things to anyone who's willing to take them on. But also we want to add a voting mechanism where, let's say there's an issue, people can, simply just do like a thumbs up on the issue, and then we have an action that automatically calculates how popular issues are. Because as part of open source and having a community is we want to prioritize things based on as much constituency driven feedback as possible. And simply reactions doesn't sound like, oh, that's a big thing, but it's like, yes, if you have 50 issues, now you're able to aggregate popularity, and we're all in GitHub anyways, so might as well take things that are more popular. And obviously, if something's a very popular topic to the community, it should be better value to the community. At least that's how it generally works out. And that's basically the community board. So there's going to be a bunch of issues and different workflow swim lanes, like the content development, featuring suggestions. This isn't going to replace typical specific repo issues, but it will have. It is a better method of what we used to have, which was which is now retired, which was that Discord ticketing system. Now people could use this for feedback, suggestions, and also proposing content. Because someone be like, "Oh, hey, I want content. Oh, make a Discord ticket." We don't have to do that anymore. We'll be able to use this GitHub repository. We're all developers and builders are anyways, and also it's already like organized in a public manner, so we can basically work in the public and collaborate in the public, and that's the open source way. So that is the community board, and yeah, I hope you guys like it. But I also want to talk about the forum. So I know I shared this yesterday, and there's already a bunch of topics coming in. So that was the community board. And I want to show you guys the Midnight Forum. So the Midnight Forum is a much more organized way of having community conversations. So technical discussions and thought-provoking discussions. I definitely encourage you to use the Midnight Forum for that, because Discord can be quite noisy, or quite noisy, and Midnight Forum is just a bit of an organized discussion, and it's also easier to reference. So we hope this would be more valuable to people who are, trying to be involved in conversation, also follow along to learn about Midnight and other topics. And yeah, and also in news today was just created the Midnight Improvement Proposal category. So there's going to be a new post in there about MIP 1 very shortly. We'd love for people to comment on MIP 1 and be a part of the up and coming Midnight Improvement Proposal process. And that's all I got for you today. And feel free to ask questions. I'm not sure if there's any questions in the chat.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, let's give Steph a virtual round of applause because that was awesome. I really, really enjoyed looking through the community board as well as the forum. And I hope that you all will migrate over there, especially when the community board is up, as well as the forum, which is already up, and we can get those discussions on there as well. I think there were a couple of questions, but it looks like they were mainly answered here by Lauren in the chat. But of course, if there's any other questions that pop up as we are going through the rest of this, we can talk about it either later, or we can discuss that in the chat as well. So thank you so much for that, Steph. And now we're going to move on to a different topic here. And we're going to jump into selective disclosure and intro to smart contracts. So if you are new to this like me, we're going to walk through what selective disclosure is, kind of what it looks like in practice with Midnight, and that intro to smart contracts with an example of selective disclosure. And if you are already familiar with this, consider this as just a nice refresher. I know that as we start to get into the weeds in a lot of our projects and stuff, we tend to really just focus on the small portions of things when there are a lot of really large topics that maybe we haven't thought of in a long time, or we haven't looked at in a long time. So hopefully this will be nice for you all to kind of walk through this with me as well. And of course, if you have any feedback on anything that I talk about today, or any questions, I would love to hear it in the chat, and we can talk through it after as well. So let's go through it. So, like I said, what we're covering today, what is selective disclosure, what it looks like in practice on Midnight, and that intro to smart contracts with a selective disclosure example. So, what is selective disclosure? Selective disclosure is the ability to share just the parts of your data that are needed without revealing everything else. So let's say you are applying to rent an apartment. You might need to prove that you are above a certain income and maybe you're over 18. But you shouldn't have to hand over your full bank statement or a copy of your ID just to prove that. So selective disclosure makes that possible by using zero-knowledge proofs. These proofs let you verify a specific claim like, yes, I make more than $2,000 a month and I am over 18 without revealing how much you make, what your actual age is, or really anything else about you, your financial situation, or about your life. So, what does this look like in practice with Midnight? Midnight smart contracts are built for this kind of privacy from the ground up. So you can separate your data into public data, things that can go on chain, like a username or an application status or things like that, and private data, things that you want to keep off chain, like your actual salary, your full legal name, if we're going off of that apartment scenario here. The smart contract logic then uses the zero-knowledge proofs to validate the private data without needing to see it directly. So instead of saying, here's all my info, you're just saying, here's a proof that the info meets your specific requirements. So let's look at a smart contract example, but from a slightly different perspective. So, like I said, I come from the Web 2 world. So, when I started really learning about how smart contracts work on Midnight, especially with selective disclosure, am finding it really helpful to write a mock contract in TypeScript to kind of make the concepts a little bit more tangible for me. So, if any Web 2 native friends are in the audience that might have switched to Web 3 are watching this, hopefully this is a little bit more helpful for you and we can walk through it as well. So I am starting a DApp example here, and it's called Example Proof Share. And it's meant to reflect real world use cases like registering in a doctor's office, applying for a job, signing up for a school, maybe renewing a government ID. The key idea is that you only share what is needed and nothing more. And the contract that we're going to take a look at uses selective disclosure to make sure that the data is valid without exposing the full record. Obviously, this isn't a real deployable contract, but it simulates how a Midnight smart contract would behave and how it looks, and then how you can also structure your logic to protect sensitive data using those zero-knowledge patterns. So let's jump into this. And I can make my text a little bit larger if we can't read that as well. There we go. Lovely. So how does this contract work? The code is going to follow a smart contract pattern with a ledger to store data, mocked in memory for this example, a constructor to initialize that data, a circuit to verify disclosure requests, and then off-chain logic at the bottom to simulate selective disclosure, like how a DApp would work alongside a real ZK-powered contract on Midnight. So in basic terms, a smart contract just contains those transactions, right? What is happening, what goes on chain, as well as those validators, if the data is there or not. The rest of that logic is going to stay mainly off chain, especially for this example. So let's walk through this a little bit more in detail here. Let's start first with the ledger. With that ledger, this is just a placeholder that's going to mimic the on-chain data store. So it actually doesn't contain the user's raw data here. It's going to pull that in later for privacy. Next, we have the witness. This is a part that in a real smart contract, sensitive data would never actually be uploaded directly. So here we're going to simulate that with a function, witness get data, that will load. Riley is our fake individual here that we are using as an example, as their personal information only when needed. We then have the constructor down here. This is the setup step that's going to simulate uploading Riley's data into the system. So in a smart contract, constructors are how you initialize the state. So here it populates that ledger with that mock data. And then lastly, in our smart contract is our circuit. And this is the selective disclosure part. This function that we're running here in TypeScript, circuit selective disclosure, takes a disclosure request. It's a type that I have below in our off-chain logic here, and returns just the pieces that are allowed to be shared. So it doesn't touch anything else here. And again, it uses an off-chain helper, so this perform selective disclosure function down here, to actually do the heavy lifting, like a dApp would when constructing a zero-knowledge proof. And then, of course, the real magic here is the off-chain logic. So perform selective disclosure, this function down here, is where the actual filtering happens. So in this dApp logic, we have all of the information that might be stored. And then the actual function itself, that's going to loop through the actual data, check if that data needs to be disclosed or if it is going to stay private, and then returns all of the data that is going to be disclosed. And that's it. So this really models how that dApp can prepare a disclosure proof without really exposing those private values. So let's take a quick look on how this plays out in different situations with this TypeScript example. So let's say that Riley needs to go to a new doctor's office. They just moved to a new city and they're finding a new primary care doctor. So in this scenario, here's all of Riley's information that we're going to keep off chain. That's going to be private for us and for them. And we're going to the doctor here. They're only going to disclose their name, surname, maybe age, health records, if they have any, maybe some family medical history, medications, allergies, and things like that. Everything else, like maybe their social security number or their employment history or anything personal about them, is going to stay hidden. And all we're doing here is, of course, this is simulating running that circuit. So in the actual smart contract, that contract would be run instead of the actual function. But in TypeScript, of course, we don't have that type of functionality. So instead, this is simulating running that circuit, which then runs that perform selective disclosure function and only discloses the specific information that we're giving to the doctor. Same thing with maybe a job application like we have down here, or even for a new rental. Of course, we can repeat this pattern across any sort of different services, maybe school enrollment, ID renewals, and so on. So going back to this, why does this matter for Web3 and for us? Because in the real world, we definitely overshare our personal data all the time, whether that is willingly or unwillingly, maybe when we, sign a specific, terms and conditions when we enter a website, right? Smart contracts on Midnight really help us move to that privacy first model. And this project is really helping me wrap my head around how to build that. So if you all are interested on taking a look as I kind of build out this actual dApp, I will be creating a dApp in Compact as well. This will be up on GitHub. This is already open source, so you can take a look at this right now if you have anyone that is interested in kind of learning a little bit more about smart contracts or about Compact and maybe need that kind of stepping stone with TypeScript example. That is up here as well, so you can play around with that right now. And I will also link up on here a link to the Git repo as well as a specific blog post that I wrote as well on selective disclosure. So here is the link to the example dApp if you want to play around with that on Git, and as well as the selective disclosure blog here as well. As well as I am going through and learning in my Web3 journey, I have been documenting everything that I have been learning, and that lives in the Midnight Dev Diaries blog. So if you haven't taken a look at our Dev Diaries blog yet, I would highly recommend it. We have a lot of really awesome articles, from technical deep dives to more of the high-level stuff to release updates as well. So we'd love for you to check that out as well. Awesome. So I think that is all we wanted to go over with you all today. But we are still super excited about everything going on with this community. So if you haven't, be sure to join our Discord, check out our X, our hackathons, our brand new forum for the technical questions, just like Stev went over today, and our newsletter. I'm going to pull up a QR code here on the top left if you want to take a look. I'm also going to take a look at the chat here to see if there's any questions or feedback, but let's take a look here just to double check. Awesome. I think we have covered everything else. So thank you so much for tuning in today. We do host these fireside hangs every Wednesday. Of course, the time might change because we are all located all over the world in different time zones. So keep an eye out for next week's fireside hang. Thank you again so much for joining us. Thank you again to Stev for joining us and going through that community board as well as the forum and Rare Evo. And we will see you again next week.